Heaven and earth are divided into 3 parts, and 9 states coexist. The universe has gone through a total of 9 eras, and the birth and end of each era are accompanied by destruction and rebirth, repeating a cycle of endless cycles. And 10,000 years after the opening of the 10th era, Xiao Muyang, a young man from Qingzhou City, woke up overnight. From then on, he fought against the heavens, the earth, and the people, step by step walking towards that wonderful and diverse world, composing an epic legendary life. Even if it's as small as dust, my heart is still towards the sky. Xiao Muyang smiled and looked at the sky. Chapter 1. You are a good person. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. In the year 10005 of the Kyushu calendar, Qingzhou City was located in Kanglan Kingdom. 10 miles outside the city of Qingzhou, there is a small mountain slope called Lover's Slope. Due to its long history, the reason for its name cannot be traced back now. Every day, the sound of the qin is heard from the Lover's Slope, so in recent years, Lover's Slope has taken on another name, Qin Pa. At this moment, on the slope of the qin, a strand of qin notes permeates, with beautiful melodies and gentle rhythms, making people feel relaxed and happy, involuntarily intoxicated by the artistic conception of qin notes. Many people stop under the slope of the qin, with a peaceful expression, quietly listening to the beautiful sound of the qin and enjoying the tranquility and beauty of this moment. If I remember correctly, the young master of the Xiao family has been practicing the piano at Qinpa for nearly 6 years now at the age of 9. At first, he heard the music of the piano was unbearable, but now it has reached such a profound level, with a somewhat master-like demeanor. It is truly a rapid progress. Someone sighed. His talent in the art of piano music is indeed astonishing, but unfortunately. The person beside him hesitated to speak, leaving only a long sigh in the end. It's really a pity. Other people around seem to have thought of something, with a hint of regret in their eyes. On the slope of the qin, under a willow tree several meters high, a clean and sunny-looking young man in white was bowing his head to play the qin. His eyes were closed, and his 10 fingers were rapidly jumping on the strings, as if fully immersed in the music, entering a state of selflessness. This young man is Xiao Muyang, the young master of the Xiao family among the masses. At the age of 9, he practiced the piano on Qinpa and now his piano skills are amazing. There seems to be a gentle breeze blowing by, the willow branches swaying in the wind, and the young man's long hair fluttering, revealing a unique charm. After a while, a soft sound of footsteps suddenly came closer and closer. A beautiful figure walked towards the young boy playing under the willow tree, who looked like a 15 or 16-year-old girl with a beautiful face and snowy skin. Her long hair hung down to her waist, revealing a dignified temperament of a lady from a wealthy family. Her light purple dress perfectly accentuated the graceful curves, making her pleasing to the eye. "Jihan, you're here." Xiao Muyang looked up and looked at the girl walking towards him, with a bright smile on his face. "Why don't you continue playing?" Lin Jihan looked at Xiao Muyang and asked. "My fiancé Ae has arrived, and if I continue to play, wouldn't it not disappoint the beauty's heart?" Xiao Muyang raised his lips and said jokingly. Upon hearing the words, fiancé Ae, Lin Jihan's originally calm eyes suddenly flashed with a strange fluctuation. When she was young, she liked to call her Xiao Muyang that way. However, as she grew up, this once deeply cherished title gradually brought her a kind of pressure, even making her want to resist and unwilling to admit it in her heart. Staring at the handsome young man in front of her, the girl lowered her head and remained silent for a moment, then whispered, "Xiao Muyang, I have something I want to say to you." Xiao Muyang's pupils slightly contracted upon hearing the girl's address, and his gaze looked at her strangely. Today, she seemed to be different from before. "If you have anything to say," Xiao Muyang smiled. After all, she is a girl, and it is normal for her emotions to fluctuate. Lin Jihan's face kept changing, as if he was struggling with something. After a long time, he looked at Xiao Muyang and asked, "Young Master Yi of Yongzhou City, have you heard of it?" Young Master Yi. Xiao Muyang showed a hint of contemplation and said, I have some impression. Is it the one named Yi Chen? It's him, Lin Jihan nodded lightly. What's wrong with him? Xiao Muyang's face showed a hint of confusion. A few days ago, the Yi family sent someone to my house to propose a marriage for Yi Chen, Lin Jihan said with his head lowered, seeming afraid to face the gaze of the young man in front of him, feeling a little uneasy and nervous inside. Xiao Muyang's expression froze directly there. The Yi family sent someone to propose marriage to the Lin family, naturally for the sake of Lin Jihan. However, a few years ago, the Lin family had already been married to the Xiao family. What was the intention of the Yi family's move? How did your family respond? Xiao Muyang tried to maintain inner peace and asked Lin Jihan. Xiao Muyang, you are a good person, but I feel that we are not suitable to be together. Our engagement will come to an end, can we? Lin Jihan spoke, her gaze firm, as if she had already made up her mind. She knew that such a result would be a bit cruel for the young man in front of her, but some things were destined not to be forced. In the future, the distance between her and Xiao Muyang is destined to become increasingly distant, becoming people from two worlds, and Yi Chen is her best practitioner. We're not suitable. The engagement ends here. The voice of the young girl just now kept echoing in Xiao Muyang's mind, his face becoming somewhat stiff, and his heart seemed to be hit by something, indescribably uncomfortable. Looking at the once familiar face in front of him, he now saw some emotions that he had never noticed before, such as alienation, resistance, and even a faint sense of disgust. Was he just a good person in her heart? I came here today not to accompany him, but to terminate their engagement. Can you tell me the reason? Xiao Muyang asked again, wanting to know Lin Jihan's inner thoughts. This matter may be the intention of the Lin family elders. Yi Chen, at the age of 7, was able to sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At the age of 13, he stepped onto the 7th level of the physical training realm, and at 16, he broke through the spiritual will realm. He was the first genius in Qingzhou City. Moreover, not long ago, he was valued by the teachers of Yinsang Academy and was recruited as a disciple in advance, without the need to participate in the Yinsang conference exam. When Lin Jihan mentioned that person, there was a hint of admiration in her beautiful eyes. Then she looked at Xiao Muyang again, her face calmed down, and said, You are a very good person, but not the type I like. I hope my future partner can work hard with me on the path of cultivation, do you understand? After listening to Lin Jihan's words, Xiao Muyang lowered his head and gave a bitter smile, and he understood. He thought Lin Jihan was someone who understood him, so he practiced the piano on Qinpa for 6 years without interruption for a day, but now it seems that he has overthought it. She is just an ordinary girl. You can continue playing, I'll go back first. Lin Jihan didn't wait for Xiao Muyang to respond before turning around and walking towards the bottom of the Qin slope. Watching Lin Jihan leave quickly, Xiao Muyang's emotions became somewhat heavy. He looked up at the willow twitching gently in the wind above, and a self-deprecating smile couldn't help but appear at the corner of his mouth. This willow tree was planted by him and Lin Jihan 8 years ago, hoping that it could accompany them in their growth. It was also that year that he discovered his innate deficiency, unable to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and unable to embark on the path of martial arts like other peers. Today, Lin Jihan personally terminated his engagement under this willow tree. This seems somewhat ironic, as the willow tree bears witness to their past, but unfortunately cannot see their future. In the evening, Xiao Muyang returned to the Xiao mansion. At this moment, he gradually emerged from his lost emotions. He always believed that everything was the best arrangement, and everything in the world had a cause and effect, so there was no need to deliberately force it. Coming back. An extremely powerful voice echoed into the eardrums. Xiao Muyang's gaze turned and he saw a middle-aged man wearing a blue robe walking towards him. His long black hair was casually draped over his shoulders, with a slightly lazy expression. His eyes were incredibly deep, and his broad body exuded a refined and scholarly demeanor, giving off a very easy-going feeling. "Dad," Xiao Muyang shouted with a smile. That person was the head of the Xiao family, Xiao Lufeng. "Why did you come back so early today?" Xiao Lufeng asked. In the past, this kid used to practice until evening before coming back, but today is particularly early, which is something that has never happened before. "It's nothing, it's just that I'm a bit tired today, so I came back." Xiao Muyang smiled and said that playing the piano requires a certain mood. Today, his mood is not suitable for practicing the piano anymore. "You can deceive others, but you can't deceive me." Xiao Lufeng glanced at Xiao Muyang and asked casually, "Tell me, what happened that made my young master lose interest in practicing the piano?" Xiao Muyang let out a bitter smile in his heart. Sure enough, Jiang is still old and spicy. It seems that this matter cannot be concealed. After a moment of silence, the young man slowly looked up at Xiao Lufeng, with a gentle smile on his clean face, and said, "Dad, let's cancel the engagement." "Was it brought up by the Lin family girl?" Xiao Lufeng narrowed his eyes, as if a flash of light had passed in his eyes, but it was fleeting, making it difficult to see any significant fluctuations. "No, I mentioned it." Xiao Muyang shook his head and smiled. "She will go to Qingzhou City to practice in the future, and I just want to stay in Qingzhou City and play the piano with peace of mind. I won't go anywhere. This engagement is like nothing, why not cancel it to avoid binding me?" The smile on Xiao Muyang's face was extremely natural, as if it were his heartfelt words. However, he couldn't deceive Xiao Lufeng. The more Xiao Muyang acted so indifferent, the more Xiao Lufeng felt heartbroken. He knew that Xiao Muyang had silently endured many pressures that his peers should not have endured, and in his identity, he should not have endured these pressures. "Perhaps it's time." Xiao Lufeng whispered in his heart, his gaze fixed on Xiao Muyang, and he asked, "Muyang, may I ask you a question for my father? Do you want to stay in Qingzhou City to practice the piano, or do you want to venture into a broader world?" Xiao Muyang's expression was stunned, somewhat puzzled by his father's meaning. How far can an ordinary person go and see the vast world? Xiao Muyang lowered his head and let out a bitter smile, with a hint of melancholy in his eyes. That was the life he once longed for the most, but now it is a luxury. "What if you're not an ordinary person?" Xiao Lufeng asked again, looking quite serious. Xiao Muyang's gaze was fixed on it, and he rarely saw his father show such a look, not like he was joking with him. People don't underestimate and waste their youth. If I were born without flaws and could practice, I hope to one day travel all over the world and see all the wonders of the world. Xiao Muyang spoke loudly, and the young man's clear and clean eyes suddenly became a bit bright, with a dazzling expression in them. "Okay." Xiao Lufeng said in a deep voice, his eyes fixed on the young man in front of him, and a ripple stirred up in his heart. This world is about to give birth to an unparalleled demon figure. What's good? Xiao Muyang's gaze showed a strange expression, and today's father seemed very strange. What's going on? Xiao Lufeng patted his shoulder with his palm and said with a meaningful expression, "The answer you want is in the jade pendant on your body." After speaking, Xiao Lufeng left here, leaving only Xiao Muyang standing there dumbfounded. Is the answer in the jade pendant? Xiao Muyang muttered to himself, then he took out the blue jade pendant from his arms, with a hint of contemplation in his eyes. This is something he has been wearing since childhood and has never felt anything unusual. Is there any secret hidden inside? The author has something to say. Welcome everyone to read this book. The beginning of the routine, the unique plot, and the excitement behind cannot be missed. Chapter 2. Mysterious Jade Pendant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As night fell and the full moon hung high in the sky, shining brightly round by round, the Xiao mansion appeared extremely quiet and peaceful. At this moment, in a room deep in the Xiao mansion, Xiao Muyang sat on the bed, took off the jade pendant hanging from his neck, and carefully examined it, as if he wanted to find the mystery behind it. "Dad said the answer is in the jade pendant, so he shouldn't be deceiving me," Xiao Muyang whispered. However, he couldn't help but feel a hint of doubt in his heart. Since Dad knew there was a secret in the jade pendant, why didn't he tell him earlier? And why not just teach him how to open the secret and ask him to explore it himself? What is extraordinary about this jade pendant? Since ancient times, to stimulate treasures, most of them require external stimulation. Why not try burning them with fire? Xiao Muyang murmured to himself, and then he reached out to take the candle beside him and placed the jade pendant on it to burn. However, after a while, the jade pendant remained unchanged, indicating that this method was not feasible. This won't work. Afterwards, he tried methods such as tapping and soaking in water, but there was no response. The material of the jade pendant seemed very special, as if water and fire did not invade, and no matter what method was used, its form could be changed. What should I do? Xiao Muyang furrowed his brows, and his expression suddenly froze. A thought flashed through his mind, thinking of a method that has been recorded in many ancient books. Blood sacrifice. Many treasures can only be opened with fresh blood. Without hesitation, he cut open his finger at this, and blood dripped onto the jade pendant. In an instant, the blood seeped into the jade pendant, gradually transforming its color from blue to bright red, becoming a piece of blood jade with a strange beauty. It's changed. Xiao Muyang stared at the jade pendant in his hand with both eyes fixed on it, his heart beating faster. It seemed that he had succeeded. I saw small patterns quickly emerging from the jade pendant, and those patterns formed together like an ancient totem, with dazzling radiance flowing on top of it, making people unable to move their eyes. I saw the ancient totem suddenly burst out of the jade pendant, wildly expanding and transforming into a peerless demon, standing proudly in the void, with utmost majesty. In the next moment, brilliant and dazzling divine lights burst out from the massive body, penetrating the space as if isolating the room from the outside. All the movements inside were imperceptible to the outside. Subsequently, the giant demon stepped out, and the infinite divine flower hung down from his body. At this moment, Xiao Muyang seemed to be bathed in divine light, and his temperament appeared particularly outstanding, exuding a divine and extraordinary aura all over his body. However, at this moment, Xiao Muyang's head trembled violently, his vision blurred, and his brain stopped thinking and then fall into a coma in the divine realm, unable to see the heart-shaking scene in front of me. Waves of divine radiance flooded into Xiao Muyang's body, flowing through his meridians, wiping away all other powers. No one knew that Xiao Muyang's meridians were rapidly expanding at a visible speed to the naked eye, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was surging rapidly in his meridians and bones, making a clattering sound, as if the spiritual energy was cheering and jumping. After an unknown amount of time, the light of the ancient totem in the void gradually dimmed, eventually transforming into a phantom and merging into Xiao Muyang's body. The sacred radiance in the room also disappeared, as if it had never appeared before. The next morning, warm sunshine fell from the sky onto the land of Qingzhou City, awakening all living beings. Xiao Muyang finally woke up. He opened his eyes and felt his head incredibly heavy, his whole body sore. He seemed to have had a long dream, experiencing many things in the dream, but his memory was somewhat blurred, and he didn't know what had happened. At a certain moment, he suddenly realized something was wrong and immediately looked inside. When he saw the wide meridians, his body trembled uncontrollably, with a hint of ecstasy in his eyes. Spiritual energy flows through the body, entering the veins of the limbs and flowing like a river, unobstructed. This means he can practice now. Although it is in the third level of the forging body realm, my meridians seem to be even wider than those in the third level of the ordinary forging body realm. Xiao Muyang felt the condition inside his body, and his face became increasingly joyful. The path of martial arts begins with forging one's body. A person with an ordinary physique can sense the spiritual energy between heaven and earth at the age of 8, absorb it into their body, and let the spiritual energy flow continuously among the 4 limbs and bones of the human body. This can achieve the effect of strengthening the body and prolonging life, thus opening the path of martial arts practice and becoming a martial artist in the realm of physical fitness. However, the forging body realm has been divided into 9 small realms by people, known as the ninefold forging body realm. The first step is to condense qi, absorb the spiritual energy from heaven and earth into the body, and make it flow among the 4 limbs and bones, refining meridians and bones. The second to 5th levels are respectively pulse opening, meat training, bone training, and visceral training. Afterwards, there are 3 realms: soul fusion, soul control, and separation from the body. The 9th important name of the forging realm is the awakening realm, which awakens the innate soul and is as strong as a dragon. Those who step into this realm only then can one be considered a true warrior, with essential differences from ordinary people. At present, Xiao Muyang has only reached the first stage of condensing qi in the forging state, but he is already very happy about it. After all, he was previously believed to have a congenital deficiency and could not even embark on the path of cultivation. As long as one can practice, there is hope. If Gu Xing knew this news, he would definitely be very happy, Xiao Muyang thought to himself, with a bright smile on his face as he left the room. After a moment, Xiao Muyang arrived at a separate courtyard and saw a tall and upright figure walking over. That figure was also a young man, with a slightly stern expression and a serious smile. If it weren't for that face still showing a hint of youthful innocence, no one would have believed that he was less than 15 years old this year. This young man's name is Gu Xing. He is the adopted son of the head of the Xiao family and grew up with Xiao Muyang. In addition, he also has an identity as the first genius in Qingzhou City. Gu Xing, I can practice now. Xiao Muyang looked at Gu Xing with a smile. Gu Xing's gaze immediately froze, as if feeling incredulous. He had been waiting for this day for 9 years. Everyone believed that Xiao Muyang was destined to be an ordinary person from birth, unable to practice, but he firmly believed that one day, that persistent and proud young man would shine his own light. Now, this day has finally arrived. What's going on? Gu Xing asked curiously, why can I suddenly practice? My dad told me that there is an answer in the Jade Pendant that I cannot practice. I seem to have found that answer last night, but today I woke up to find that I can practice. Unfortunately, I have forgotten what happened last night, so I am not sure what happened. Xiao Muyang had a bitter smile on his face, all of which seemed too bizarre and unreal, like a dream. It's okay if you don't remember, as long as the final result is good, Gu Xing scratched his head and smiled, we can finally practice together in the future. Looking at Gu Xing's simple and sincere smile on his face, Xiao Muyang also smiled. It was probably only in front of him that this genius figure from Qingzhou City would show such an expression. Let's go, Xiao Muyang said, walking outside. Where are you going? Gu Xing's expression froze for a moment. Black Wind Mountain, accompany me to practice together. A cheerful voice came from the front. All right. Gu Xing grinned and stepped forward, his body shooting forward like the wind, quickly catching up with Xiao Muyang's footsteps. Heifeng Mountain stands 20 miles outside Qingzhou City. Starting from Xiao Mansion, half an hour later, Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing arrived at the foot of Heifeng Mountain. How could you keep up with my speed? Gu Xing looked at Xiao Muyang with a shocked expression, feeling extremely uneasy. Even some people in the 4th or 5th level of physical fitness may not be able to keep up with his speed just now. However, Xiao Muyang only stepped into the realm of physical fitness yesterday, but he has just started practicing. How did he do it? I don't know what's going on, maybe this is just talent, Xiao Muyang chuckled casually. In fact, he has been different from his peers since childhood. Although he cannot practice, he has a perception that is many times higher than his peers. Even the smallest fluctuations can be quickly detected. Moreover, he has a strong sense of spiritual energy between heaven and earth, but he cannot use it to practice. He once asked Gu Xing, and he said he didn't have that strong perception. Gu Xing was the first genius in Qingzhou City, and he couldn't even do it, let alone others. However, only he and Gu Xing knew about this matter. He had not told anyone else, not even his father and mother. After giving them hope, he ultimately disappointed them. "You are indeed very talented, even stronger than me," Gu Xing said in a deep voice. The young man's eyes were extremely serious, as if he had recognized this matter. Xiao Muyang glanced at Gu Xing and couldn't help but show a bright smile on his face. He just casually said that this guy actually believed him. "Is it so easy to deceive? You must work hard to cultivate in the future, otherwise it won't be long before my cultivation surpasses yours. I'll have to cover you up then," Xiao Muyang said proudly, patting Gu Xing's shoulder, and then strode up the mountain. "You don't want to?" Gu Xing said with a dark face, as if very unhappy. "I'm too lazy to take action. If your cultivation is weaker than mine and you encounter a powerful enemy, what should you do?" Xiao Muyang's voice came from the front. "I'll die, you'll live." Gu Xing shouted as he looked at the figure of the young man ahead, his face particularly solemn, as if he was dealing with an extremely important matter. If one day, he will stand in the front, bear all the storms and let Xiao Muyang go safely. Upon hearing the sound coming from behind, Xiao Muyang's footsteps stopped slightly, as if he had been touched. Then he shook his head and a helpless smile appeared on his face. "This fool, how could I be willing to let you die alone? If you really encounter danger, either live together or die together." Chapter 3. 3 Realms in a Day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half an hour later, the two of them arrived at the outer area of Hefeng Mountain. In front of them were towering ancient trees, which covered their sight a lot. From time to time, deep roars could be heard in their ears, clearly emanating from the surrounding monsters. Although the peripheral area is relatively safe, most of the demon beasts' cultivation is based on low-level strength in the forging realm. There are also a few medium to high-level demon beasts appearing, so you need to be careful. Gu Xing scanned the surrounding environment with a vigilant gaze and whispered to Xiao Muyang. "I understand." Xiao Muyang nodded lightly, with a burning look in his eyes, and said, "Just watch from the side. If you encounter a monster that I cannot resist, come out and help." "Okay." Gu Xing nodded and then leaped into the air, flying directly to an ancient tree where he could clearly see the scene below. "Let's start." Xiao Muyang whispered in his heart, then he immediately took out a pill and put it in his mouth. It melted as he ate, and a surging force flowed wildly through his limbs, making the momentum emanating from him much stronger. If anyone else had seen this scene, perhaps no one would have believed that Xiao Muyang was just the first-level realm of the physical training realm. Xiao Muyang felt that his meridians were much wider than those of ordinary people in the same realm, so he specially brought some elixirs to use external forces to refine his body. This way, his cultivation speed would be much faster. Of course, this method is only suitable for himself, and if others do so, they are highly likely to explode and die due to the inability to withstand the power of the pill. Bang! With a loud bang, Xiao Muyang stomped on the ground, jumped up, and ran towards the jungle ahead. Above, a slender figure kept jumping and moving among the ancient trees, following Xiao Muyang's footsteps to ensure his safety at all times. Xiao Muyang's footsteps suddenly stopped, his gaze fixed on a huge fiery red figure ahead, and a hint of playfulness appeared at the corner of his mouth as he whispered, "The fiery tiger, forging the body realm triple." Gu Xing glanced at the fiery tiger, hesitated for a moment, but ultimately did not go down. He believes in Xiao Muyang. When observing the fire flame tiger in Xiao Muyang, the fire flame tiger was also looking at Xiao Muyang. His huge eyes seemed to lack much wisdom, only the most primitive and fierce intent. Roar! Accompanied by a roar, a fiery red shadow swept across the space. A gust of strong wind blew by, and the fiery tiger descended from the sky, carrying a powerful aura. Its eyes were fierce, and its claws simultaneously thrust towards Xiao Muyang's head, seemingly intending to kill him with one blow. Xiao Muyang's expression appeared extremely calm, his eyes fixed on the figure of the fire flame tiger, his pupils contracting wildly. The movements of the fire flame tiger seemed to slow down countless times in his pupils, and he could even clearly see the trajectory of its body movement. At one moment, Xiao Muyang seemed to grab something and quickly flashed towards the side. In the next moment, a fiery red shadow swept past his previous position, its sharp claws slamming heavily onto the ground, shattering it into a large pit. One can imagine how powerful this blow was. Xiao Muyang did not hesitate at all, his body bent into a bow shape, and suddenly jumped behind the flame tiger. He saw spiritual energy swirling around his fist, faintly shining with a golden luster, as if it contained powerful power. Bang! The two fists hit the back of the fire flame tiger, causing its body to tremble violently. It let out a long howl as it looked up at the sky, and a hint of pain appeared in its huge eyes. Immediately, its massive body was blasted out, breaking several giant trees along the way before it could finally stop. Such a powerful force. Gu Xing was stunned in the sky, feeling extremely unbelievable. Is this the power that a person with a heavy physical condition should possess? Generally speaking, for every small breakthrough in the forging body realm, one can increase 100 pounds of power, and each level of forging body realm has approximately 100 pounds of power. The fire flame tiger weighed at least 300 to 400 pounds, but with the punch from Xiao Muyang just now, it flew straight away. What is this concept? Is it a monster? Gu Xing stared strangely at Xiao Muyang's figure and muttered softly. Not only was Gu Xing shocked, but Xiao Muyang also looked a bit confused, looking at his fists in surprise. Surprisingly, is he so strong? Subsequently, Xiao Muyang figured out the reason, which was most likely due to the effect of the pill. His body absorbed the power of the pill, so his strength increased to about 3 levels in the forging state, and the burst of power naturally reached that level. It seems that bringing pills is an extremely wise decision, which can allow me to experience the feeling of having powerful power in advance. Xiao Muyang sighed to himself and continued to move forward. Just now was just the beginning, and he wanted to quickly master the skills of fighting monsters. As Xiao Muyang continued to deepen, he encountered several demon beasts along the way, but they were all 3 or 4 level demon beasts in the forging realm, unable to pose too much threat to Xiao Muyang, and it took some time. I immediately wiped out all of them. At a certain moment, Xiao Muyang seemed to have noticed something and spoke to Gu Xing in the sky. I have broken through. Upon hearing this, Gu Xing's expression lit up with joy. So quickly. When I was in the state of condensing qi, I felt that the meridians were extremely broad. Just now, the meridians expanded once again, and it should have broken through to the state of opening meridians. Xiao Muyang continued. That should be right. Gu Xing nodded, and his gaze suddenly showed a strange expression. At your cultivation speed, I'm afraid it won't be long before you can catch up with me. Xiao Muyang smiled and then thought of something. He looked at Gu Xing and asked, if I remember correctly, Yunsan will take the exam in a month, right? Are you going to participate? Gu Xing asked with a surprised expression on his face. Of course. Xiao Muyang's eyes showed a hint of longing. Yunsan Academy is the best academy in Kangwan country. It is said that many students who came out of the Yunsan Academy eventually became giants of the Kangwan kingdom, shaking the world and even becoming hegemons. His dream is to become a powerful cultivator, wield his sword to travel the ends of the world, and see the most beautiful scenery in the world. I support you, Gu Xing smiled and said, as long as Xiao Muyang wants to do something, he can definitely do it. Xiao Muyang glanced at Gu Xing with a hint of guilt in his eyes. Gu Xing was the first genius in Qingzhou City. Previously, a teacher from Yunsan Academy came to Xiao Mansion for him once and wanted to recruit him as a disciple in advance. However, Gu Xing refused. Although Gu Xing did not explain the reason, he knew it was for him. "Let's continue practicing," Xiao Muyang said, and then continued walking deep, with Gu Xing closely following him, not leaving a single step. Unconsciously, the two of them had been practicing for several hours on Heifeng Mountain. As the sun approached the western mountain, the setting sun shone on the dense ancient trees, reflecting faint rays of light that were slightly dazzling. And now Xiao Muyang's cultivation has entered the third level of physical training, 3 levels a day. If others knew about it, it would probably be shocking to heaven and earth. Xiao Muyang's mind twitched, and his surging spiritual power swam through the midst of his 4 limbs. Then he lifted his fist and threw it forward, unleashing a powerful force. A dull sound echoed through the space, and all the surrounding spiritual energy was scattered by this fist. Gu Xing's gaze showed a hint of brilliance upon seeing this scene, and he exclaimed, "Your physical body seems to be naturally stronger than others." Duo, with this punch, most people in the 5 levels of physical fitness may not be able to move on. "I don't know what's going on," Xiao Muyang smiled and suddenly looked curiously at Gu Xing, asking, "I've never asked you, what is your soul of life?" There are 3 types of souls in the human body, namely heavenly soul, earthly soul, and human soul, which respectively control human essence, qi, and spirit. To achieve the 6 levels of forging the body, the 3 souls need to be fused into one, transformed into the soul of life, and forged into a life fetus in the elixir field. Destiny contains the innate talent of martial artists. The stronger the innate talent, the stronger the life fetus. After reaching the 9 awakening realm of the forging body realm, the soul of life can be nurtured, also known as the destiny soul. Life souls can be inherited. Generally speaking, they will inherit the life souls of the stronger parent. If the life souls of both parents are equally strong, there is a certain chance of giving birth to twin life souls. However, this type of person is extremely rare, and not one person among billions of people may have a twin life soul. A person with twin life souls, most of whom have a natural talent of demons and a strong background, is a true pride of heaven. "My soul seems to be a dragon," Gu Xing scratched his head and smiled bitterly, "but I don't know what dragon it is." "Dragon?" Xiao Muyang's gaze showed a hint of surprise. The dragon clan was the hegemon of the demon clan, and even the most ordinary dragon soul was extremely powerful, with innate divine power and incredibly strong defense. Martial arts cultivators who possess the soul of the dragon clan can transform their bodies into dragon shapes, giving them a natural advantage in battles with other demon beast soul owners. They can suppress their opponents solely based on their blood level. No wonder you are so powerful. It turns out you have the soul of the dragon clan. Xiao Muyang's gaze showed a hint of envy, and a thought suddenly flashed in his mind. Gu Xing is the soul of the dragon clan, which means that one of his parents should also be the soul of the dragon clan. According to ancient texts, people who possess the soul of the dragon clan are generally extraordinary figures, either giants of the demon clan or super strong cultivators with a broad background and unparalleled strength. But until now, he doesn't know who Gu Xing's parents are. He once asked his father about the origin of Gu Xing, but he kept silent every time, only saying that he would naturally know in the future. In the end, this matter came to an end, and he did not inquire further. "That's all for today. Let's go back first," Xiao Muyang said, and Gu Xing nodded. "I'll listen to you." Then the two of them shot towards the direction outside the Black Wind Mountain together, and their backs gradually shrank before disappearing completely. Chapter 4. Assassination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning, Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing left the Xiao mansion together, preparing to go to Black Wind Mountain for cultivation again. Although Qingzhou City is not the imperial city of Kanglan Kingdom, it is also extremely bustling. As the two walked up the street, many passers-by looked at them, but most of them focused their attention on Gu Xing. On the contrary, they did not pay much attention to Xiao Muyang. It is said that a teacher from Yinsang Academy went to Xiaofu and wanted to recruit Gu Xing to practice in Yinsang Academy in advance, but Gu Xing refused. I have also heard about this matter. Yinsang Academy enrolls students every 3 years. Students from anywhere in Kanglan Kingdom can enter Yinsang Academy through the entrance examination as long as they meet the admission requirements. However, Yinsang Academy will also actively invite some talented young people to practice at Yinsang Academy, such as the first genius in various cities. Unfortunately, if it weren't for him, Gu Xing wouldn't have refused the invitation from Yinsang Academy. He did indeed delay Gu Xing's future. Discussions echoed from all directions, and both Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing could hear them clearly. Gu Xing whispered, "You don't have to worry about that. I never wanted to go to Yinsang Academy." "Really?" Xiao Muyang smiled and joked, "Don't you want to go to Qingzhou City?" "Naturally," Gu Xing said. Qingzhou City is the busiest place in Kanglan Kingdom, with many novel things, and he also wants to go and see them. "Why do you say you don't want to go to Yinsang Academy?" Xiao Muyang suddenly had some doubts. Gu Xing remained silent for a moment and whispered, "Yinsang Academy is naturally good, but I would rather go to the Canglong Legion." "The Azure Dragon Legion." Xiao Muyang's eyes showed a hint of strangeness. The Azure Dragon Legion belonged directly to the royal family, with a transcendent status, and like the Yinsang Academy, it also recruited students every 3 years. The difference is that one cultivates in an academic institution, while the other experiences on the battlefield. Gu Xing unexpectedly wanted to join the Black Dragon Legion, which was beyond his expectations. "It was my negligence that I didn't know your thoughts," Xiao Muyang let out a bitter smile, with a hint of self-blame in his tone. Gu Xing lowered his head and remained silent. He had never told anyone about this matter. If Xiao Muyang could not cultivate, he would not leave Qingzhou City, let alone go to the Canglong Legion. Because now that Xiao Muyang can cultivate, he finally expressed his thoughts. Compared to practicing in a university, he longed more to fight on the battlefield. Only in this way can he grow up quickly and guard by Xiao Muyang's side. "Okay, let's go to Qingzhou City together. You go to the Canglong Legion, and I go to the Yinsang Academy." Xiao Muyang turned his head and patted Gu Xing's shoulder with a smile. Gu Xing nodded with a smile. The two continued to move forward, and at that moment, a very teasing voice came from "Young Master Xiao, long time no see." As the sound fell, Xiao Muyang's footsteps couldn't help but stagnate. His gaze turned towards the direction of the sound, and he saw a group of figures walking towards him. In the center was a young man in splendid attire with a hint of playfulness on his face. He looked similar in age to Xiao Muyang and was the young master of the Yun family, Yunlin. There is also a young girl next to Yunlin, who is Miss Yun of the Yun family and Yunlin's sister Yunfei. Beside the two, there are some guards from the Yun family who constantly protect their safety. There are 3 major families in Qingzhou City, namely the Xiao family, the Lin family, and the Yun family. Among the 3 major families, the Xiao family is the strongest, followed by the Lin family, and the Yun family is the weakest. Although Yunlin had a smile on his face, there was a hint of disdain in his eyes as he looked at Xiao Muyang. He said, "Yesterday, I planned to go to Qinpa to listen to Xiao Gongzi's music, but unfortunately I didn't see anyone like him." "Why, after 6 years of persistence, have you given up? What do you want to say?" Xiao Muyang looked at Yunlin calmly. "I heard that the Lin and Yi families have already married, and Lin Jihan and Yi Chen, the first genius of Yongzhou City, will soon get married. It seems that Xiao Gongzi was kicked away by the Lin family. Perhaps because he was too sad in his heart, he didn't go to Qinpa yesterday." Yunlin asked with a smile, with a hint of teasing in his tone. Yunlin's words made the eyes of the surrounding crowd look strange. They also heard some news, but it was not confirmed and it is not known whether it is true or not. Now, from Yunlin's mouth, it seems that the marriage alliance is very likely true. If the Lin family were to marry the Yi family, then they would really have nothing to do with the Xiao family. Moreover, the Yi family has a strong influence in Qingzhou City, only stronger than the Xiao family. It is said that Yi Chen had exceptional talent and was the first person in Qingzhou City. He had already been recruited as a disciple by the Yinsang Academy in advance, and his future was limitless. In comparison, the young master of the Xiao family was. Someone hesitated, with a look of regret in their eyes. Although the young master of the Xiao family was born with deficiencies, his perseverance and intelligence were both good. He practiced the piano on the slope for 6 years, rain or shine, and now his piano skills are unparalleled among his peers. He can also be considered a tianjiao among ordinary people, but compared to Yi Chen, he is not on the same level. Another person whispered, his words were quite accurate. Xiao Muyang's expression remained calm when he heard the crowd's discussion. After so many years, he had already become accustomed to it. Xiao Gongzi didn't speak. It seems I guessed it right, Yunlin said with a smile in his eyes. Idiot. Xiao Muyang let out a voice and looked away from Yunlin, as if ignoring him directly. Xiao Muyang's cold attitude made Yunlin's expression stiffen. His eyes immediately cooled down and he said in a deep voice, "Can you say it again?" Idiot. Another voice came from Xiao Muyang's mouth, and then his gaze turned to Gu Xing beside him, looking strange and saying, "I have never seen such an rude request before." "I haven't seen it either." Gu Xing nodded seriously. The crowd around them watched as the two of them sang and reconciled, and their expressions suddenly became particularly exciting. They were teaming up to humiliate Yunlin. Yunlin's face was extremely pale, and his eyes were extremely cold as he looked at Xiao Muyang. "This bastard, if there's nothing wrong, just get out of here and don't let it get in our way," Xiao Muyang said indifferently as he looked at Yunlin again. "What if I don't let it go?" Yunlin sneered, and a useless person asked him to make way. Is that possible? Today, he cannot make way. Xiao Muyang's face remained expressionless. At this moment, Gu Xing took a step forward and gazed fiercely at Yunlin, coldly shouting, "Do you want to let it go?" "You." Yunlin's expression suddenly changed, as if he was intimidated by the powerful momentum suddenly unleashed by Gu Xing. He could ignore Xiao Muyang, but he couldn't ignore Gu Xing. Although both he and Gu Xing are in the 9th level of physical training, if we really want to fight, he has no chance of winning, brother, Yun Fei shouted nervously. Her cultivation level was only 7 levels of forging the body realm to control the spirit, let alone Gu Xing's opponent. I saw several guards behind Yunlin take a step forward, as if wanting to take action. Xiao Muyang glanced at them and said calmly, "You figured it out. What's the cost of taking action?" Xiao Muyang's voice fell, and several people's eyes flickered before taking a step back. If it were members of other families, they could act without any hesitation, but the Xiao family was not among them. Once Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing are disturbed, the Xiao family will never give up easily. When things get big, it will be them who suffer. Therefore, they dare not act rashly. Are you really unwilling to let go? Xiao Muyang looked at Yunlin and spoke, although his tone was calm, his eyes seemed to reveal a sense of dignity, causing Yunlin's heart to tremble slightly. Why does this gaze make him feel a bit scary? I'll spare you once today, and soon I'll go to Qingzhou City and enter Yinsang Academy to practice. You can only stay in Qingzhou City, be an incompetent person who only knows how to play the piano. I will be the existence you can only look up to forever. Yunlin sneered loudly at Xiao Muyang, then looked at Yunfei and others. Let's go. Watching Yunlin and others leave, Xiao Muyang's lips lit up with a playful smile. Can only look up forever. Who is it, who is looking up to? I really deserve a beating. Gu Xing's gaze was cold, and he almost couldn't resist taking action just now. Don't get angry, it's just sensationalism, Xiao Muyang said casually, as if he didn't take what happened earlier to heart. Gu Xing nodded slightly. On the day when Yunsong would try, Yunlin naturally knew how ridiculous his words were. Then the two of them left Qingzhou City and ran towards Haifeng Mountain. After a while, Xiao Muyang's speed suddenly slowed down, and his brow furrowed slightly, as if someone was following them. "Gu Xing, be careful of the surroundings," Xiao Muyang whispered, but his face did not show too much fluctuation, and his footsteps did not stop, obviously not wanting to startle the snake. Upon hearing Xiao Muyang's words, Gu Xing's eyes flashed with a sharp gleam and he did not stop, continuing forward. At the next moment, the 5 figures shot out like lightning from the nearby forest, and their targets were extremely consistent, directly killing Gu Xing. "Be careful." Xiao Muyang's expression changed and he shouted at Gu Xing. However, Gu Xing was already ready. He turned around and faced the 5 rushing figures. There was no fear on his cold and stern face. He stepped forward suddenly, and an astonishing aura filled the air, causing the 5 of them to slow down a lot. A surprised look flashed in their eyes. "The first genius of Qingzhou City, truly deserving of its reputation," said one of them coldly. Xiao Muyang looked at the 5 figures with a serious expression on his face. It seemed that these people were coming for Gu Xing. Among the 5, 4 of them were in the 9th level of the forging body realm, and the person in the middle had an unfathomable aura. He couldn't tell their cultivation, so they might be strong in the spirit will realm. "Kill him," the strong spirit will realm shouted coldly. Suddenly, 4 people beside him flickered out, and palm prints slapped out one after another, creating a gust of wind in the space and killing Gu Xing's body at the same time. Gu Xing's eyes were indifferent. Behind him, a dragon shadow appeared, and he punched towards the space ahead. There seemed to be a melodious sound of dragon chanting emanating from the space, and the dragon shadow fiercely rushed into the palm prints. With a click sound, all the palm prints were destroyed. Dragon soul. Those few people's pupils suddenly shrank, as if seeing an extremely incredible scene. His soul, is it a dragon? A look of shock flashed in the eyes of the strong spirit will realm, and then he saw his body soar into the air, with wings on his ribs, like a giant peng, diving towards Gu Xing's body. De Peng's soul. Xiao Muyang thought to himself, that person is De Peng's soul, so he can transform into De Peng's wings and soar into the air. I saw the humanoid De Peng, his body tracing a straight path in space, rushing towards Gu Xing with a strong killing intent. Kill. Gu Xing's eyes turned red, and he let out a deep roar. The light of dragon scales appeared faintly on his fists, and a huge dragon shadow enveloped his body, emitting an extremely violent aura, which was extremely terrifying. Even if he is a person in the spiritual realm, Gu Xing has the power of a battle at this time. However, just as the person was about to come into contact with Gu Xing's body, his body suddenly flipped over in the air and changed the direction of his flight, rushing towards the location of Xiao Muyang. Chapter 5. Pursuing the Whereabouts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, Gu Xing's face turned pale instantly, and the person's target was actually Xiao Muyang. The previous attacks were just illusions, and in order to avoid alerting him, it was only at the last moment that his killing intent was truly exposed. At such a short distance, the other party was able to navigate through the air, and he didn't have time to save anyone. Although Gu Xing had many thoughts in his mind, all of this happened in a very brief moment. He saw the person with the wings of a great peng open and his hands like sharp claws thrusting towards Xiao Muyang's body, intending to kill him with a single blow. Xiao Muyang naturally wouldn't sit idly by. He quickly retreated and took out a pill from his pocket, swallowing it directly into his mouth. A powerful force rushed into his meridians, and his fists were wrapped in spiritual energy, fiercely colliding with the palm that the person had killed. Bang! With a loud bang, Xiao Muyang's body flew backwards and his legs left a long mark on the ground, flying out for several tens of meters. The person was also bounced back into the air with a surprised expression on his face. Are you not Xiao Muyang? The person asked in a startled voice. I am. Xiao Muyang raised his head and looked into the person's eyes, saying coldly, I was disappointed that you didn't kill me with one blow." The person's pupils contracted, suspecting that the information they received was incorrect. He knew that Gu Xing and Xiao Muyang were inseparable and had the highest talent in Qingzhou City. Therefore, his initial idea was to join forces to kill Gu Xing first, and then kill Xiao Muyang. But Gu Xing's strength exceeded his expectations, and he was able to withstand 4 enemies without falling behind. Therefore, he changed his mind and pretended to attack Gu Xing, but in reality, he directly took the life of Xiao Muyang. It has to be said that his ideas have no flaws, and in such a situation, almost no one can save Xiao Muyang. However, what he didn't know was that Xiao Muyang was no longer the young master of the Xiao family who couldn't practice before. Bang! A thunderous voice came, and the person's gaze turned to see a violent and domineering figure rushing towards him, which was Gu Xing. At this moment, Gu Xing's body exuded an incredibly strong and domineering aura, with a raging anger in his heart, and he threw a punch directly at the person above. A domineering and unparalleled fist shadow shot out like a giant dragon, and the person couldn't help but snort coldly. The 2 fist shadows collided with each other, causing space to tremble. But seeing Gu Xing's fist shadow directly annihilate the opponent's fist shadow, he continued to kill the person. The person didn't have time to react and was hit by the shadow of the fist, causing the wings behind him to dissipate and fall rapidly. Gu Xing naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. With a leap in his body, he stepped down on the person's body, causing it to tremble and spit out a mouthful of blood. The speed of his descent increased a bit. Bang! Accompanied by a loud noise, the person fell fiercely to the ground. Due to the excessive force received, their body rebounded upwards for a distance, emitting a crisp bone-cracking sound inside, and I don't know how many bones were broken. What a frenzy! Xiao Muyang stared blankly at the scene before him, and Gu Xing's actions were really ruthless. At this moment, the other 4 people's bodies were all stiff and afraid to move, their hearts beating wildly. Is this young man really just in the state of physical fitness? The person from the spirit will realm surprisingly had no fighting power in front of him and was directly crushed. Seeing Gu Xing raise his fist again, Xiao Muyang immediately shouted, "Don't kill him." Gu Xing's fist suddenly stopped in mid-air, his gaze turned, and he saw Xiao Muyang walking over. He looked down at the person lying on the ground and said in a deep voice, "Who sent you to kill me? If you want to kill, do you think I'll tell you?" A fierce expression appeared on the man's pale face. He had killed many people, but to his surprise, he was buried in the hands of 2 younger generations in the forged body realm today. He was a bit unwilling. Xiao Muyang was about to continue asking, but saw the person swallow the pill for a moment, and then his face quickly turned black, and the vitality in his body also quickly passed away. Suicide. Xiao Muyang's expression suddenly changed. He didn't expect this person to be so decisive and directly take poison to commit suicide. His gaze suddenly turned to the other 4 people, and he saw that their bodies had also fallen. Obviously, like that person, they had all committed suicide in order to keep the secret. "It seems to be a specially trained assassin," Xiao Muyang said with a gloomy expression. He didn't seem to have much grudge against anyone and couldn't figure out who would kill him. "Can it be Yunlin?" Gu Xing suggested a guess. Just now, they had a dispute with Yunlin, causing him to be publicly humiliated. It is possible that Yunlin was dissatisfied and secretly sent assassins to assassinate them. No, he doesn't have the courage yet. Xiao Muyang shook his head. He knew Yunlin's character very well, and although he hated him to the bone, he had many scruples and wouldn't even kill him in Qingzhou City. And he's not so foolish as to send someone to kill him just after a dispute with him. Doing so would put too much suspicion on him. What about the Lin family? Gu Xing asked again. This time, Xiao Muyang frowned slightly and did not directly deny Gu Xing's words. The Lin family did indeed have a motive to kill him, in order to regret their marriage. However, he had already agreed to terminate the engagement with Lin Jihan, and the relationship between the Xiao family and the Lin family was relatively friendly before, which the Lin family should not have done so amazing. Don't tell anyone about this matter for now, Xiao Muyang looked at Gu Xing and said. Understood. Gu Xing said, knowing that Xiao Muyang didn't want his adoptive father to worry. Immediately after, the two continued to rush towards the direction of Heifeng Mountain, without encountering any other dangers on the way, and practiced until evening before returning. Night shrouded the city of Qingzhou, and an inn was filled with many guests. Friends gathered together to chat, while others drank alone, creating a harmonious atmosphere. I saw a very unique figure sitting at a table by the window. He was dressed in black and wore a bamboo hat on his head, covering his face, making it difficult to see him clearly. A faint sense of danger emanated from him, making the people around him hesitant to approach. Occasionally, curious glances were directed towards him, but he quickly moved away and didn't pay much attention. After a while, a figure came to the table and sat down opposite the person. Is the matter done? A calm voice came from the man in the bamboo hat. They're all dead, the person across from whispered. Very good. The man in the bamboo hat nodded lightly. This task was quite easy, but it was completed so quickly. I'm talking about our people, both of them are still alive, the person across from me added with a rather unpleasant expression. What are you saying? The man in the bamboo hat's voice sank a bit. It was their person who died. I don't know what happened, but none of those people have returned so far. It is highly likely that they have died, and someone just saw that both of them have returned to the Xiao mansion unharmed. The other person said in a low voice. He also felt very puzzled about this matter. Among those people, there was even a spirit will realm character who should not have died, but the fact was that. I know. The man in the bamboo hat seemed to calm down and spoke calmly. Do we still need to send people? The other party asked. I don't need it for now, so as not to expose any loopholes. Your person hasn't leaked any information, has he? The man in the bamboo hat asked. No, if they can't get rid of it, they will end it on their own and never betray, the other person said in a positive tone. I hope so, the man with a bamboo hat said lightly, then stood up and suddenly thought of something. He looked at the other person again and said, we will give you the promised reward. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The other person also stood up and arched his hand. Subsequently, the two of them left the inn one after another without causing anyone to notice. In the following days, Xiao Muyang still went with Gu Xing Black Wind Mountain cultivates, but they secretly let some guards of the Xiao family follow, including several spiritual will realms, to prevent those people from being assassinated again, and also want to take the opportunity to find the mastermind behind the scenes. After a failed assassination attempt, those people seemed to give up and never appeared again. However, Xiao Muyang never relaxed in his heart. Since the other party wanted to kill him, there must be a reason. If he didn't find out, he would face endless troubles in the future. Unconsciously, the day when Yun Song will try is getting closer and there are only 10 days left. After more than half a month of hard cultivation, Xiao Muyang's cultivation has made rapid progress and has entered the 6th level of soul fusion in the forging realm. He has condensed the birth of life in the elixir field, integrating essence and spirit, and his overall temperament has become different. His already handsome appearance now appears even more outstanding. On this day, Xiao Muyang came to the backyard of the Xiao family and saw Xiao Lufeng and Xia Ro chatting. He walked up and smiled, Dad, Mom. Muyang. The couple saw Xiao Muyang walking towards them, and a smile appeared on their faces, with a look of indulgence in their eyes. There's something I want to ask for your opinion on, Xiao Muyang said. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Lufeng and Xia Ro exchanged a glance, seemingly understanding the meaning in each other's eyes. Xiao Lufeng looked at Xiao Muyang and smiled, You have grown up, you can make your own decisions on many things, don't ask us again. I plan to go to Qingzhou City to participate in the Cloud Sang examination, Xiao Muyang said as he looked at the two of them. Go ahead, Xiao Lufeng waved his hand, his tone appearing extremely casual. Is that all? Xiao Muyang was stunned, and this sentence sent him away. Otherwise, do you want us to take you? Xiao Lufeng glared at Xiao Muyang. Naturally, I dare not trouble my father to personally take action. This time, Gu Xing and I will go together, and we may have to stay there for a long time. Xiao Muyang's expression was sad, and his tone even showed a hint of sigh. He thought to himself that this suggestion was so obvious, so he should know what to say, right? Oh, Xiao Lufeng just exclaimed without saying much. Xiao Muyang's expression froze directly there. He seriously suspects now, is this his own father? Surprisingly, he is so indifferent to him. Muyang, Qingzhou City is no better than Qingzhou City. When you arrive there, you should take good care of yourself. If you encounter any difficulties, come back at any time. Dad and Mom are waiting for you at home. Xia Ruh looked at Xiao Muyang kindly and said in an incredibly gentle voice. Remember, the child will come back to see you often. Xiao Muyang smiled and nodded. Sure enough, his mother still loved him. Chapter 6. Women with Deficiencies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recently, Qingzhou City seems to have become much more lively than usual, for no other reason. The day of Yunsang's examination is approaching. Yunsang Academy is the only academy in Kanglan Kingdom, and it only admits students every 3 years. Now that the deadline is approaching, people from all cities who meet the conditions are all eager to go to Qingzhou City to show their skills and seize a chance. The people of Qingzhou City are no exception. There was another incident that caused quite a stir in Qingzhou City. The Lin family will marry the Yi family in Yongzhou City, and the previous engagement between the Lin family and the Xiao family no longer exists. The Xiao and Lin families are both big families in Qingzhou City, and such an event will naturally cause a lot of discussion among people. Some voices claim that the young master of the Xiao family has been overly sad, so he has not been playing the piano on Qinpa for over half a month. From then on, there may be no more music on Qinpa. Some people feel sorry for this, while others feel regretful. Has a generation of musical geniuses fallen from grace? Early that morning, Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing had already sorted everything out and were ready to depart for Qingzhou City. Xiao Muyang was dressed in a white long shirt, with a tiara on his head, coupled with his handsome and delicate appearance, exuding a refined and scholarly temperament. Gu Xing, on the other hand, was wearing a tight black shirt with long hair hanging upside down at the back, appearing simple and efficient. He also carried a package behind him, which was the piano used by Xiao Muyang to play. In the words of Xiao Muyang, although cultivation is important, the Qin path should not be neglected. In leisure time, it is joyful to use the Qin to cultivate one's mind, which is not enjoyable. Have you all packed up? A spirited voice came, and Xiao Lufeng and Xia Ruh came to the door together, obviously to bid farewell. Well, everything is fine, Xiao Muyang nodded and said. When going out, be careful in everything. When you should endure it, you don't have to endure it anymore when you can't bear it anymore. Xiao Lufeng said in a low voice, with a hint of sharpness in his eyes. The child understands, Xiao Muyang said seriously. Xiao Lufeng nodded slightly, knowing that Xiao Muyang's personality was not weak or incompetent, and he would have his own judgment. If you have time, remember to come back and take a look, Xia Ruh said gently as she looked at Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing with beautiful eyes. Mother, don't worry, Xiao Muyang smiled brightly and said, I'm going to practice, and I'm not going to never come back. Just live your own life well, don't worry too much about us. Alright, Mom, stop nagging, Xia Ruh said angrily. Xiao Muyang took a deep look at his parents in front of him, as if he wanted to imprint their looks in his mind. After a long time, he turned his head to Gu Xing and said, let's go. Gu Gu Xing nodded lightly, then looked at Xiao Lufeng and Xia Ro, and said reluctantly, "My adoptive father and adoptive mother, I'm also leaving." Let's go." Both of them had a comforting smile on their faces. Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing walked out of the gate of the Xiao mansion, watching their gradually disappearing figures. Tears gradually appeared in Xia Ro's eyes, but the smile on his face did not disappear. He stood there watching, even though the person had already disappeared from sight. "Farewell today, I don't know when we can meet," Xia Ro said softly. I saw Xiao Lufeng looking up at the sky, with a complex expression in his deep gaze. He murmured to himself, "Like you, I am afraid that he will leave us, afraid that he will bear hardships. However, I am even more afraid that he will always stay in this corner of Qingzhou City." Upon hearing Xiao Liufeng's words, Xia Ro's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Indeed, it was unfair for him to live here forever. "He was born into the sky, we should let go," sighed Xiao Lufeng. Xia Ro also looked up at the sky, with a bright smile on his face. Yes, the extraordinary nine heavens Kunpeng should let him spread his wings and fly. Not long after, Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing left Qingzhou City and headed north. Qingzhou City was located in the southern part of Kanglan Kingdom, while Tian City was located in the central part of Kanglan Kingdom. With the strength of Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing's feet, they can travel 200 miles a day. Tian City and Qingzhou City are thousands of miles away, and it only takes 5 days to arrive. However, they want to enjoy the scenery along the way and practice while traveling, so they set off 10 days early. So, the two of them walked and stopped, and in the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed and they were already very close to Tian City, only 200 miles away. At this moment, the two of them arrived at the foot of a mountain range, which seemed different from ordinary mountains. It was towering and towering, shrouded in fairy mist, with no visible peak at all, like a fairy mountain. Good mountain, great scenery. Xiao Muyang couldn't help but exclaim in admiration as he looked at the beautiful scenery before him. At this moment, Gu Xing wisely put down the package behind him and handed the qin to Xiao Muyang. Whenever Xiao Muyang expresses such emotions, it is inevitable that the qin is in high spirits and he is about to start playing. "You do understand me?" Xiao Muyang smiled and glanced at Gu Xing. This fool became more and more discerning. "I'm used to it." Gu Xing shrugged and glanced around before sitting down on a stone. Xiao Muyang also found a stone and sat down, placing the qin on his knees. Then, strands of light and joyful qin music drifted out, like a small bridge flowing water, delicate and lingering, deeply ingrained in people's hearts. The melodious sound of the qin echoes through the mountains and forests, with thousands of birds singing in unison, as if in harmony with the sound of the qin. Gu Xing's gaze turned to Xiao Muyang's figure. Although he didn't understand the qin, he could still be infected by the artistic conception of qin. My mood couldn't help but become much more relaxed. At this moment, on the other side of the mountain range, two women were originally walking when they heard the sound of a piano coming from the valley and couldn't help but stop to listen. Both women were extremely young, around 15 years old. One of them was wearing a white long dress, with long hair that reached her waist, bright eyes and white teeth. Her exquisite appearance was like that of a natural craftsman, perfect and flawless, like a fairy descending to earth, particularly beautiful and moving. She listened quietly to the music of the piano, her eyes extremely clear and pure, but the only downside was that there seemed to be no expression in them. The sound of this qin is pure and flawless, and the turning points are extremely delicate and thoughtful, indicating that the player is a master of qin dao. Hua Qianyu said softly, unsure if it was played by that senior. "If that's the case, then she won't be here for nothing today. Qing'er, come with me to take a look." The woman next to her, named Qing'er, looked at her with a hint of doubt and asked, "Miss, won't we go up the mountain?" "Let's go and see the master who plays first, maybe it's the one on the mountain," Hua Qianyu replied. "Oh," Qing'er responded and then supported Hua Qianyu's hand, walking in the direction of the sound of the qin. After a while, Qing'er saw the two people ahead, her gaze fixed on them, and her footsteps stopped. "What's wrong?" Hua Qianyu asked in confusion, looking ahead with lifeless eyes. "Miss, I saw two people," Qing'er replied with an incredulous expression in her eyes. "How could this be? But that expert." Hua Qianyu's delicate face suddenly showed a hint of anticipation. Looking at Hua Qianyu's expression, Qing'er let out a light sigh in her heart and whispered, "No, the player is a young man." What was played by a young man? Hua Qianyu's heart trembled slightly. She thought that with such profound proficiency in the piano, the player must be an elderly person, but she didn't expect it to come from the hands of a young man. Perhaps this person comes from a family of Qin Dao. Qing'er guessed. "It's indeed possible," Hua Qianyu nodded lightly and said softly, "Since you're here, let's go and say hello." At such an age, with such superb piano skills, even if we look at the entire Kanglan kingdom, we may not be able to find many people. Immediately, Qing'er supported Hua Qianyu's hand and walked slowly towards the front. When Hua Qianyu and Qing'er appeared here, Xiao Muyang had already sensed their presence. However, because the other party was a woman, he didn't want to take the initiative to greet them, so as not to cause displeasure, he felt at ease playing. Watching the two of them walk over, Gu Xing stood up and secretly guessed the purpose of these two people's visit. Hua Qianyu and Qing'er stopped not far away, not too close, standing there, waiting for Xiao Muyang to finish playing this song. After a moment, the sound of the qin suddenly stopped. Xiao Muyang then lifted his head. When he saw Hua Qianyu, his heart skipped a beat, and a hint of amazement appeared in his eyes. His gaze couldn't move away from her. Is there really such a beautiful person in the world with a stunning appearance and unparalleled appearance? Among all the women he has seen so far, except for his mother Xiao, she is the most beautiful woman in front of him. However, her eyes seemed a bit strange. "What are you looking at?" A coquettish shout came out, and Qing'er's eyes glared at Xiao Muyang with some displeasure. Xiao Muyang immediately regained his composure and quickly explained to Hua Qianyu, "When I first saw the girl, I was shocked and lost in thought. I hope the girl won't be blamed for the impolite behavior just now. You have a smooth tongue." Qing'er snorted, her eyes still looking at Xiao Muyang with extreme hostility. Such words made her wonder how many people had told Miss that no man is a good thing. Gu Xing's expression also became a bit strange. It was the first time he had heard such words spoken from Xiao Muyang's mouth. Hua Qianyu's eyebrows furrowed slightly. With such a high level of proficiency in the piano, one should not be a frivolous person. Seeing the expression on Hua Qianyu's face, Xiao Muyang suddenly realized that he might be treated as a frivolous playboy, and he smiled bitterly in his heart. However, explaining it now was of no use, and the other party would not believe it. "By chance, I passed by this place and was attracted by the sound of the qin, which disturbed me." Hua Qianyu whispered to Xiao Muyang, then looked at Qing'er beside him, "Let's go." Originally, Hua Qianyu was attracted by the sound of the qin and was curious about the person playing it, but if it were a frivolous person, then there was nothing to say. Hua Qianyu and Qing'er left together and soon disappeared into the mountains and forests. Watching the direction in which they disappeared, Xiao Muyang couldn't help but sigh, "It's a pity." "What a pity?" Gu Xing asked. "It's really a sin to leave without even asking the name," Xiao Muyang rubbed his brow. If he had known this earlier, he wouldn't have been so impolite, and he didn't know if he could have seen him again in the future. What touched him the most was that such a beautiful woman, who had lost her sight and lived in darkness, could not see the beauty of this world. It was truly regrettable. "Are you tempted?" Gu Xing looked at Xiao Muyang with great interest and joked. "Am I such a shallow person?" Xiao Muyang gave Gu Xing a white glance and then muttered to himself, "Food, sex, and temperament. A graceful and graceful lady is a good match for a gentleman." Upon hearing this, Gu Xing's face turned black. Was this hitting his face on the spot? Chapter 7. The Master and the Elderly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Above the towering mountain range, there are two beautiful figures walking, like a beautiful scenic line. Unfortunately, this place is remote and no one has the chance to see it. Those two figures are Hua Qianyu and Qing'er. Although the two were weak bodies, they walked lightly and at an extremely fast pace, much faster than the average person. As they walked, a faint fragrance filled the air, refreshing the heart. "Miss, what should I do if he hasn't seen him yet?" Qing'er looked at Hua Qianyu with worried eyes and asked. "If things don't go well this time, let's put an end to this idea in the future," Hua Qianyu said softly, with a hint of helplessness in her tone. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the mountain and saw a thatched cottage. The ground outside was covered with fallen leaves, and a tall woman was sweeping the leaves. "It's her again." Qing'er saw the woman sweeping the fallen leaves, and her face immediately became unhappy, as if she had a grudge against her. They came twice before, and each time they were driven down the mountain by her, naturally feeling resentful. The tall woman seemed to have noticed something. Her gaze turned, and upon seeing Hua Qianyu and Qing'er, a hint of coldness immediately appeared on her cold face. She said, "Aren't you willing to give up?" "Sister, don't blame me. We have long admired the name of our master and are here to visit him. Could you please let us know?" Hua Qianyu said. "My master never sees outsiders," the tall woman said lightly. "Just meeting once, isn't that all right?" Hua Qianyu continued, with a hint of pleading in her tone. "Let's go back." The tall woman remained indifferent and disappeared. "This master is also too unfriendly. I think he is just a nominal figure and not worth seeing." "Miss, let's go back," Qing'er advised Hua Qianyu. "What are you saying?" The tall woman's face became even colder when she heard Qing'er's words. She didn't allow anyone to insult her teacher. "I said your teacher is just an empty name, is there a problem?" Qing'er looked at the tall woman and said coldly. "Qing'er, don't be impolite," Hua Qianyu scolded and then said, "We have no disrespect towards master, so let's go down the mountain." Mississippi. Qing'er seemed to want to say something more, but was interrupted by Hua Qianyu waving his hand and saying, "Help me down the mountain." Just as the two of them were turning around and preparing to leave, a voice suddenly came from within the thatched cottage. "It's not that I won't save you, it's just that everything in the world has a cause and effect, and external forces cannot change it forcefully." As the words fell, Hua Qianyu's footsteps suddenly stopped, and a hint of joy appeared on her face. The master had never seen her before, but knew her purpose for coming up the mountain. Indeed, she had the ability of divine calculation, and the rumors were true. "Excuse me, master, do my eyes hope to see light?" Hua Qianyu turned around and asked. Although she asked the question she wanted to ask the most, her heart became tense. Husband Z is her only hope. There is. There was another sound coming from inside. Hua Qianyu and Qing'er both trembled at the sound, hoping to see the light. "When can we see it?" Hua Qianyu quickly asked. "The secret of heaven cannot be revealed, everything will be arranged according to one's own plan. Let's go down the mountain." Hua Qianyu's heart trembled lightly, and she immediately nodded lightly. Although she did not receive an answer, she was still very happy to learn that she still had hope to see this world. Xia Fuzi pointed out the maze. Hua Qianyu bowed and then went down the mountain with Qing'er. The tall woman watched as they descended the mountain, her cold expression gradually disappearing and becoming much softer. She turned to the thatched cottage and asked, "Did the teacher deceive them?" She thought the teacher didn't want to see those two people, so she deliberately said she could see the light, so they wouldn't come back in the future. "Of course not," said the person inside. "The teacher didn't see her the first 2 times, but told her this time." The woman was puzzled. "I'm in a good mood today, so I told her." "Okay." The woman's face froze as she continued to sweep the fallen leaves on the ground. The night covers an endless area, and the sound of birds chirping occasionally comes from the mountains, clear and pleasant, like the sound of heavenly music. Under the mountain range, Xiao Muyang held a sword in his hand and walked towards a forest, seemingly intending to practice his sword in the forest. I saw his figure flicker rapidly, and the sword in his hand kept swinging and slashing out. In the space, there seemed to be illusory sword shadows, extremely sharp. The sword shadows slashed on the ancient tree, leaving many deep sword marks. What's the use of practicing such a terrible swordsmanship? At this moment, an extremely disdainful voice came from the side. Xiao Muyang instinctively turned his gaze and saw a figure suddenly emerge, as if appearing out of thin air. Xiao Muyang looked at the person in front of him and found that he was an old man. His white hair was scattered on his shoulders, his eyes were cloudy, his expression was lazy, and he was no different from an ordinary old man. He was even more disheveled. This person actually called his swordsmanship mediocre, and he felt a bit dissatisfied. "So, do you also understand swords, senior?" Xiao Muyang tentatively asked, first exploring the opponent's background. "I have some knowledge," the old man said lightly. "My senior just called my swordsmanship mediocre. May I ask what's wrong?" Xiao Muyang asked again, probing again. "There's nothing wrong with it. This swordsmanship is flashy and can scare some children. If you really want to compete with others, if you don't use 3 moves, you will definitely lose." The old man commented rudely, as if in his eyes, Xiao Muyang's swordsmanship just now was useless. Xiao Muyang's mouth twitched slightly, thinking to himself that this old man is really crazy, I don't know how much strength he has. However, although he thought so in his heart, his face did not show any signs of humility. He said humbly, "Since that's the case, I earnestly request your guidance and help me broaden my horizons. Anyway, I'm in a good mood today, so I'll give you 3 swords. Learning these 3 swords is hard to say in heaven, but you can walk horizontally under heaven," the old man said arrogantly. As the voice fell, Xiao Muyang's expression froze directly. "Learn the 3 swords and walk horizontally below the heavenly position. After the spirit will realm, there is the heavenly position realm. In Qingzhou City, the heavenly position realm is already an extremely strong existence, with very few. His father is a heavenly position powerhouse." From the old man's tone, it seemed that the heavenly realm was not worth mentioning in his eyes. "Then please ask the senior to teach. Xiao Muyang deliberately bit the word teach very hard and handed the sword in his hand to the old man. He wanted to see how powerful the swordsmanship of such a messy old man could be. "You keep an eye on it, I will only perform it once. The amount you can remember depends on your own intelligence," the old man said lightly. "Senior, please take out the sword," Xiao Muyang said disapprovingly. He remembered most of the sword techniques after seeing them once, and they were unforgettable. The old man glanced at Xiao Muyang with a hint of meaning in his eyes, and uttered a voice, "The first sword, the great river is heading east." As the sound fell, the figure of the old man gradually became illusory, as if it had turned into remnants. A powerful sword intent seemed to gather in his hand, and with each thrust, the sword intent surged and surged, as if overwhelming everything. What a strong sword intent! Xiao Muyang's gaze froze instantly. At that moment, he finally realized that the old man in front of him was not joking with him, but a true swordsman. I saw the old man's figure flash and appear next to an ancient tree. The sword in his hand stabbed out directly, and thousands of sword shadows seemed to overlap, piercing through the ancient tree. Bang! With a loud bang, the ancient tree exploded and turned into endless powder, falling to the ground. This power! Xiao Muyang was amazed in his heart, how powerful. He could feel that the old man's sword did not use too much spiritual energy, but it burst out with such powerful power because of that sword momentum. The sword's momentum converged in one place, like a rushing river, capable of crushing everything. The second sword, 100 twists and turns. The old man's voice echoed again. Is this the second sword? Xiao Muyang's expression froze for a moment, and then his eyes stared at the old man's figure, afraid of missing any details. At this moment, the old man's sword was different from before. His sword moves were constantly changing, with sword shadows raging in space at intricate angles, making it dazzling and impossible for the naked eye to capture the trajectory of sword energy movement. The third sword follows the heart's beat. I saw the old man's figure becoming clearer a bit, his footsteps casually stepping out. At this moment, his sword seemed to have no moves, but it made people feel like flowing clouds and flowing water, without any sense of discord. There are no moves that win, and it can truly be called a sword dance. A gentle breeze blew through the forest, and the old man's long hair danced in the wind. He hunted in his robe, and his sword seemed to have become much more agile and faster due to this wind. Just as Xiao Muyang was mesmerized by it, he saw the old man suddenly throw his sword over and calmly speak, "If you can understand the true essence of these three swords, there is no match under heaven." Xiao Muyang grabbed his sword and a brilliant light flashed in his eyes. He didn't believe the old man's words just now, thinking he was speaking recklessly and ignorant. But now, he somewhat believed it. When he looked up, he found that his eyes were empty, and the old man's figure had already disappeared, as if it had never appeared before. But there are still many leaves on the ground that have been chopped down by sword energy, witnessing everything that just happened. It seems that he has met a master. Xiao Muyang murmured to himself. Unexpectedly, he came out to practice swordsmanship on a whim and unexpectedly met a master of swordsmanship. This luck was also too good. Xiao Muyang did not leave directly, but stood in the same place, constantly recalling the sword moves he had just memorized in his mind, and then danced along with the memories, but only in a slight resemblance, far from the old man's seamless momentum just now. These three swords may seem simple, but the true meaning they contain is quite profound and requires constant understanding to fully comprehend. Xiao Muyang thought to himself, no wonder the old man said that by mastering these three swords, one can walk horizontally under heaven. To achieve this step is already an extremely difficult task. After returning, Xiao Muyang told Gu Xing about what had just happened. 3 moves, walking horizontally under heaven's position. Gu Xing asked with uncertainty. That's right. Xiao Muyang nodded. You probably haven't encountered a prodigy, have you? Gu Xing looked strange, just 3 sword techniques. How could they have such strong power? When I practice those 3 moves well, you will know their power, Xiao Muyang said with an extremely confident expression. He had a faint feeling that the old man might be an old monster practicing in seclusion, so his behavior was different from that of ordinary people. Let's wait and see. Gu Xing smiled, although he still had some disbelief in his heart, perhaps it was true. Chapter 8. Battle Across the Sky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qingzhou City, the imperial city of Kanglan Kingdom, stands in the center of Kanglan Kingdom, covering an area of thousands of miles, with no end in sight. From top to bottom, this city looks like a sleeping dragon, majestic and grand, while also revealing a sense of vicissitudes. During this period, there have been particularly many people coming to Qingzhou City, but due to the upcoming enrollment of Yinsang Academy, many people from other cities have rushed to participate in the Yinsang examination, hoping to have the opportunity to enter Yinsang Academy for cultivation. The enrollment rules of Yinsang University are extremely strict, taking 1 out of 1,000. Out of 1,000 people, only about 1 has the opportunity to enter the Yinsang Academy for cultivation, and it is only possible to enter and may not necessarily obtain high-quality cultivation resources. At this moment, many people outside the city are preparing to enter Qingzhou City. Amidst the vast silhouette, 2 young figures walked in unison, one of whom was handsome and elegant, with an outstanding temperament, while the other was as tall as a gun, with a cold face. These 2 people are exactly Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing. How spectacular! Looking up at the ancient city in front of him, Xiao Muyang couldn't help but feel a hint of emotion in his heart. Is this the Qingzhou City? The most bustling place in Kanglan country, the absolute center. Gu Xing's gaze was also fixed on the gate of Qingzhou City, grand and spectacular. It seemed as if there was a surge of passion boiling and roaring in his heart. He finally arrived at this city that he had longed for so long in his heart. Let's go in. Xiao Muyang lifted his feet and then the two of them walked into the Qingzhou City. The two of them were walking up the street when Gu Xing turned to look at Xiao Muyang and asked, "Where are we going next?" "Let's stay at the inn first, it's also convenient to inquire about some information," Xiao Muyang said. "I'll go find it," Gu Xing said as he walked forward. After a moment, the two of them arrived at the door of an inn, with a plaque inscribed with 4 big characters, Rui Inn, with dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. "Go in and take a look." Xiao Muyang's eyes showed a hint of smile as he lifted his feet and walked inside. At this moment, a group of figures happened to emerge from the inn, led by a young man dressed in a blue robe with outstanding temperament. When he saw a figure beside him, Xiao Muyang's expression couldn't help but freeze. "Xiao Muyang." A slightly surprised female voice came out, and the speaker was none other than Lin Jihan. She looked a little surprised, as if she was surprised by Xiao Muyang's appearance in Qingzhou City. "What is a person who cannot practice here for?" Xiao Muyang looked at Lin Jihan with a slight ripple in his heart. He didn't expect to meet her here, which was really surprising. At this moment, Gu Xing walked over and saw that Lin Jihan was also here. His face immediately darkened a bit. He had been treating Lin Jihan all along. The matter of regretting marriage is deeply ingrained in my heart. It's a coincidence. Xiao Muyang smiled politely. "When did you arrive?" "I arrived a few days ago," Lin Jihan replied. She glanced at Gu Xing beside Xiao Muyang and vaguely guessed why Xiao Muyang had come to Qingzhou City. Probably, it's to send Gu to prison. But didn't Gu Xing refuse Qingzhou Academy? Why did he still come? Xiao Muyang nodded slightly and said in a flat tone, "Let's take a step first." After speaking, he walked past Lin Jihan and never glanced at her again. Lin Jihan felt the change in Xiao Muyang's attitude. His eyes slightly changed, but soon returned to normal. Since he was destined to be from a different world, it was better to maintain some distance. He probably won't see him again in the future. "Xiao Gongzi." A voice suddenly came from behind, and Xiao Muyang's footsteps stopped when he heard it. He turned around and saw the young man in the blue robe beside Lin Jihan looking at him. Obviously, the words just now came from this person's mouth. "Are you?" Xiao Muyang asked. "Jihan's fiancé, the young man replied with a faint smile on his face. As this sentence fell, Xiao Muyang's pupils slightly contracted, and this person was Yi Chen. Yi Chen's words seemed to have no problem, just a simple self-introduction, but Xiao Muyang and Lin Jihan had an engagement before, and at this moment, Yi Chen was pretending to be Lin Jihan's fiancé in front of Xiao Muyang. Between words, a thought-provoking meaning is revealed. It seems like a silent provocation. Bang! A loud noise came out, and Gu Xing took a step forward, his gaze fixed on Yi Chen's eyes, exuding a strong sense of war. It was obvious that he was unhappy with Yi Chen's words. Yi Chen's gaze shifted away from Xiao Muyang, glanced at Gu Xing, and smiled faintly. "If you guessed correctly, you should be Gu Xing." Gu Xing's gaze remained fixed on Yi Chen without responding. If young Master Yi has nothing to do, then Xiao won't accompany him. Xiao Muyang glanced at Yi Chen casually, seeming not to have much interest in staying here. Lin Jihan said that Yi Chen had already been recruited as a disciple by the Qingzhou Academy in advance, but it was just a show of pride here. Is Xiao Gongzi feeling ashamed to leave so quickly? Yi Chen looked at Xiao Muyang's figure and said. Lin Jihan glanced at Yi Chen as if he wanted to say something, but hesitated for a moment, and ultimately did not. There is an opening. Xiao Muyang's face gradually became indifferent, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he spoke to Yi Chen. "Yi Gongzi seems to feel very good about himself. I don't deserve it, I was just lucky enough to be appreciated by the teacher of Yinsang Academy and entered the academy as the 5th place in the underworld. Yi Chen chuckled lightly, although his voice was not loud, his tone revealed an unparalleled sense of pride. The 5th in the underworld. The other people in the inn all looked at Yi Chen, with a hint of envy on their faces. Being able to enter the underworld is already an extraordinary figure, ranking 5th, and can definitely be called a heavenly pride. However, Xiao Muyang's face did not show much fluctuation. He did not know what the 5th place in the underworld meant. When the teacher from Yinsang Academy went to Xiao Mansion to recruit Gu Xing as his disciple, he did not mention his rank. "Jihan, my teacher has allowed me to enter the school early to live. You can live with me then." Yi Chen suddenly looked at Lin Jihan beside him and said. Lin Jihan's pretty face turned slightly red, with a happy smile on her face. At the age of 7, one can sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and at 16, one can step into the spiritual will realm. With such talent, can one rank 5th in the underworld? Suddenly, a voice came from Xiao Muyang's mouth, as if muttering to himself. Xiao Muyang's words suddenly made the inn quiet, and countless people looked at him with a strange expression. Can it be ranked 5th in the underworld? Listening to this person's tone, it seems that they are somewhat disdainful. Yi Chen and Lin Jihan's expressions also changed slightly, their gaze fixed on Xiao Muyang. However, Xiao Muyang turned to look at Gu Xing and smiled. "Gu Xing, when did you sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth?" 6 years old, Gu Xing replied, and the crowd's gaze froze. 6 years old sensed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. What level of talent is this? How old is this year and what cultivation is it? Xiao Muyang continued to ask. Under the age of 15, the peak of the 9 levels of awakening in the physical training realm, Gu Xing replied with great cooperation. After Gu Xing's voice fell, the inn fell silent again, and many people's hearts trembled, not knowing what to say. Being under 15 years old means he is only 14 years old now, and his cultivation has reached the peak of the physical training realm. This talent is quite terrifying. As if thinking of something, the crowd's gaze suddenly became a bit strange. Compared to this person, the 5th-ranked person in the underworld just now seems to be somewhat inferior. Of course, this is just a purely natural perspective. At this moment, the smile on Yi Chen's face had disappeared with a hint of coldness in his eyes. He stared at Xiao Muyang's face. Is this intentionally provoking him? Xiao Muyang's gaze turned once again to Yi Chen, seemingly not seeing his expression. He smiled and said, "It is said that Yi Gongzi is known as the most talented person in Qingzhou City, and now he has entered the Yinsang Academy as the 5th place in the underworld for cultivation. He is indeed a dragon among people. I admire him." When everyone heard Xiao Muyang's words, their expressions became increasingly strange. Why does it sound strange, even though it is a compliment? The first genius in Qingzhou City, the 5th place in the underworld of Yinsang Academy, and the dragon among the people. However, his talent is not comparable to that of a person under the age of 15. Yi Chen's face completely darkened. At this moment, Xiao Muyang praised his talent, which was undoubtedly a satire. The more he praised, the stronger the satire. "Xiao Muyang, you have gone too far." A displeased voice came out, and the speaker was Lin Jihan. She looked at Xiao Muyang with a cold expression. Xiao Muyang publicly humiliated Yi Chen, and as Yi Chen's fiancée Ae, she couldn't bear to look down on her. Am I wrong? Xiao Muyang glanced at Lin Jihan and spoke lightly. You are just an ordinary person who cannot practice, but using Gu Xing's talent to humiliate a genius who entered the underworld of Yinsang Academy, don't you feel ashamed? Lin Jihan said coldly in her voice, admitting that Gu Xing's talent is very strong. However, these words should not be said by Xiao Muyang. Xiao Muyang looked at the cold expression on Lin Jihan's face. From her gaze, he seemed to see a wave of hostility. Now, Lin Jihan has regarded him as an enemy. Years of friendship crumble in an instant due to one person. Xiao Muyang sneered at himself and didn't say anything more. He said to Gu Xing, "Let's go." Gu Xing nodded and both of them walked towards the inn at the same time. A cold light flashed in Yi Chen's eyes as he looked at the backs of Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing. His voice was cold and he said, "There are too many people in this world who stop at the physical training stage. The talents displayed for a while may be dazzling, but they are just a flash in the pan and will eventually be forgotten in the dust by the world." Upon hearing this sound, Xiao Muyang's gaze froze, but his footsteps did not stop, and then he uttered the same sound from his mouth. There are too many people in this world who are ordinary and have achieved little, but then they become complacent and look down on others, as if they are invincible in the world, unaware of how foolish and ridiculous they are in others' eyes. Two voices echoed one after another in the inn, as if fighting across the air, with a faint smell of gunpowder emanating from the crowd. The hearts of the crowd trembled uncontrollably, with an extremely exciting expression on their faces. Is this, competing across the air? Chapter 9. The First Person in Qingzhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the afternoon of that day, the news of Xiao Muyang and Yi Chen fighting across the air spread in the inn. The guests in the inn were all discussing this matter, but the conversation revolved around Gu Xing and Yi Chen, with very little mention of Xiao Muyang. In the eyes of most people, Xiao Muyang just didn't want to lose to Yi Chen, so he used Gu Xing's talent to speak out those bold words. However, in the world of cultivation, strength is the most important. Gu Xing and Yi Chen are both proud figures, especially Gu Xing, whose talent is truly terrifying. Many people believe that if Gu Xing participates in the Cloud Sung examination, he is highly likely to break into the top 5. As for whether he can enter the underworld, it depends on luck. After all, the enrollment quota in the underworld is limited and determined solely by the teachers. Therefore, even if one performs exceptionally well, if they cannot please the teachers, they still cannot enter. In the room, Xiao Muyang was practicing, his eyes closed, and there were strands of heaven and earth spiritual energy surrounding him, forming a series of cyclones that eventually flowed into his body. At this moment, Gu Xing suddenly walked in with an excited expression and said, "The enrollment of the Canglong Legion and the Yinsang Academy has already begun." Xiao Muyang's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "So fast." The assessment of the Canglong Legion is divided into 2 rounds, which can be completed on the same day. Those who pass can join the Canglong Legion, while the Yinsang Academy has 3 rounds in total. The first round will start now, and the second round will start in 5 days. Let's go take a look. Xiao Muyang immediately stood up and after a moment, the two of them left the inn together. Let's go to the enrollment office of the Canglong Legion first, Xiao Muyang said. Since the Canglong Legion can be confirmed today, let's complete this matter first. The two of them inquired all the way and finally found the recruitment location for the Azure Dragon Legion, which was in the command mansion. At this time, there were 10 huge arenas outside the commander's mansion, surrounded by many figures, mostly around the age of 15, who wanted to join the Black Dragon Legion. As long as you join the Black Dragon Legion, you will not lack cultivation resources. If you can achieve success on the battlefield in the future, you can also secure some official positions. This is the idea in the hearts of countless ordinary people. However, Gu Xing did not join the Blue Dragon Legion for this reason. He wanted to grow from the battlefield. The first round of assessment is in the left direction, and you can pass by holding the cauldron for a moment, said a young man wearing armor loudly. Upon being reminded by this person, many people immediately rushed to the left, fearing that they might be one step slower than others. Xiao Muyang's gaze also turned to the other side, where he saw more than a dozen dark golden giant cauldrons. Many people were queuing up to lift the cauldron, but very few were able to lift it. Let's go, Xiao Muyang said with a smile. The two of them arrived at the area of the first round of assessment, with Xiao Muyang standing aside to watch, and Gu Xing standing behind a queue, waiting for the person in front to finish the assessment. After a moment, it's finally Gu Xing's turn to assess. Name, age. A soldier in charge of recording looked at Gu Xing and asked. Gu Xing, 14 years old, Gu Xing replied. We can start now, just hold on for a while and you'll pass the level, the soldier said. I saw Gu Xing approaching a giant cauldron with a cold and stern expression. His footsteps stomped on the ground, and a terrifying momentum erupted from within, shaking the cauldron off the ground. Countless people saw this scene with their eyes fixed in the air, their eyes wide open, unable to believe their own eyes. The soldier in charge of recording was also stunned, looking at Gu Xing with a gaze that was like looking at a monster. A giant cauldron weighing 500 pounds shook with just 1 foot. Is he a human or a demon? Gu Xing casually reached out his hand and held the giant cauldron, standing upright like a god of war, standing still. Xiao Muyang smiled at this scene, but as expected, Gu Xing was in the 9th level of physical training and had 1,000 pounds of power. Lifting a tripod was simply not too easy for him. After a short rest, Gu Xing put down the golden cauldron and walked up to the soldier just now, asking, what should we do next? Are you really only 14 years old? The soldier looked at Gu Xing incredulously. Although he could lift the golden cauldron, he couldn't do it so easily. This kid's strength was even stronger than him. Gu Xing nodded and said, I have achieved 9 levels of cultivation in the physical state. Jiu Chong of the Forging Body Realm. The soldier's mouth twitched. At the age of 14, Jiu Chong of the Forging Body Realm, what talent is this? At this moment, Gu Xing was like a monster in his eyes, and what made it even more difficult for him to understand was that if you didn't go to the Cloud Sang Academy in the 9 heavens of the Forging Body Realm, why did you come to the Green Dragon Legion? Although the assessment of the Canglong Legion is also difficult, it is much simpler than that of the Yinsang Academy, and there are more strong individuals who have emerged from the Yinsang Academy. Generally speaking, people with outstanding talents will go to the Yinsang Academy, and almost no one is willing to join the Canglong Legion. This guy is simply a freak. However, this person is willing to join the Black Dragon Legion, and he is still very happy. The Black Dragon Legion has always been extremely welcoming to talented individuals. You don't need to participate in the second round. The soldier smiled heartily and said, he took out a token, handed it to Gu Xing, and then said, hold this token and go directly to the army. Got it. Gu Xing said calmly, then put away the token and turned to leave. The other people around who participated in the assessment looked at Gu Xing's departure and felt quite uneasy. They didn't expect that he would actually. It's really rare to have such a talented person join the Azure Dragon Legion. My affairs are already settled, let's go to Yinsang Academy next, Gu Xing said as he walked up to Xiao Muyang. No need to participate in the second round. Xiao Muyang showed a hint of doubt. No need. Gu Xing smiled. Most of the others only have 4 or 5 levels of physical fitness, so it's meaningless for me to participate in the second round. Indeed, that's true. Xiao Muyang nodded and didn't expect that having a strong cultivation would bring such benefits, so he was directly admitted. Subsequently, the two of them left the command mansion and rushed non-stop to the location of the Yinsang Academy. The Cloud Sang Academy is very large, so the Cloud Sang examination is held within the Cloud Sang Academy. At this time, the Cloud Sang Academy is filled with figures, all of whom are students coming to participate in the first round of the Cloud Sang examination. Xiao Muyang and Gu Xing arrived outside the Yinsang Academy, looking at the crowds ahead, and suddenly felt a tingling sensation in their scalp. There were many people, but when will this wait? There seem to be fewer people over there, go take a look. Xiao Muyang looked at a corner, where there were fewer people compared to other places, so it shouldn't take too long. The first round of assessment is relatively simple, just testing the cultivation level. Once you reach the 6 levels of physical fitness, you can pass the assessment. As Xiao Muyang walked, he had already heard the rules of the first round of assessment from other people around him. And now Xiao Muyang's cultivation happens to be in the six-fold fusion soul realm of the forging body realm. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the assessment site, where about 20 people gathered. A young man sat at the front, who was the examiner for this round of assessment. Beside the young man stood a standing stone tablet, which seemed to flow with faint spiritual power, not an ordinary stone tablet. Next, the young man said to the crowd. As the voice fell, a young girl walked forward. The young man glanced at her and spoke faintly, "Put your hand up and release your spiritual power." "Okay." The girl nodded obediently, then took a light step and walked to the stone tablet. Her slender jade hands pressed against the tablet, and a faint purple spiritual power wrapped around her palm. At the next moment, 7 bright lights suddenly lit up on the stone tablet, very bright. 7 levels of physical fitness passed through. The young man asked, "What's your name?" "Luyuer." The girl's face was somewhat excited, and her eyes were filled with joy. I saw the young man take out a sign, and a divine light appeared in his pupils, as if carving words on the jade plaque. After a moment, he handed the sign to Luyuer and said, "5 days later, come to the school with this jade plaque to participate in the second round of assessment." "Thank you, brother," Luyuer said happily, then quickly left with the jade plaque. Xiao, after watching the entire process of Luyuer's assessment, Muyang couldn't help but show a hint of surprise in his eyes. The young man should have practiced some kind of eye technique and could even release divine light to carve characters. Next, a few more people stepped forward and passed the test. The rules for the first round have been announced, and only those who have reached the level of 6 or above can pass. The rest of us have no hope, so we won't waste any more time. Just as Xiao Muyang was preparing to go up for the assessment, a mocking voice came from, "Isn't this the first person in Qingzhou City, Xiao Gongzi? Did he even come to participate in the meeting exam?" This loud voice immediately attracted the attention of many people around. The first person in Qingzhou City. Xiao Muyang furrowed his brow upon hearing it, turned around, and saw several figures walking towards him, clearly from the Yun family. That sentence just now came from Yunlin's mouth. I saw a brilliant smile on Yunlin's face. He looked at Xiao Muyang and loudly said, "It's really unexpected that Xiao Da's genius also came to participate in the Yunsang examination." The crowd around followed Yunlin's gaze and finally gathered on Xiao Muyang. Their eyes showed a hint of surprise. This person was extremely handsome, with a jade tree and outstanding temperament, but they didn't know his cultivation level. Since he is the first genius in Qingzhou City, he should be a character who has stepped into the 9th level of physical fitness realm. Yunlin's face was filled with a smile and he spoke loudly to the surrounding crowd, "Perhaps you don't know, this person is the young master of the Xiao family in Qingzhou City. He has unparalleled talent and is stunning in Qingzhou City." It is obvious that Yunlin deliberately made everyone see Xiao Muyang's joke. The young master of the Xiao family in Qingzhou City is actually a useless person who cannot practice. If this news spreads, Xiao Muyang will surely lose his reputation. He wants to avenge the city of Qingzhou that day. "Yunlin, do you want to die?" Gu Xing sneered and walked towards Yunlin's direction. "Idiot." Xiao Muyang looked contemptuously at Yunlin and then walked straight towards the stone tablet ahead, causing Yunlin's expression to freeze. What was he going to do? Is he going to show off his talent? Many people trembled in their hearts, their eyes showing sharpness. The young man also glanced at Xiao Muyang, with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. He also wanted to see how outstanding this first genius in Qingzhou City was. I saw Xiao Muyang gently pressing his palm against the stone tablet, and a thick spiritual energy spread from within to his palm, eventually pouring into the tablet. In the next moment, 8 beams of light instantly lit up on the stone tablet, dazzling and dazzling, as if illuminating the entire space. How could it be possible? Yunlin's heart trembled suddenly, and looking at the 8 beams of light on the stone tablet, it felt particularly dazzling. Chapter 10. Cheating. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The vast space is incredibly quiet, with many people staring at the 8 beams of light on the stone tablet, their expressions varied, with confusion, surprise, and shock. Those who are puzzled believe that since Xiao Muyang is the first genius in Qingzhou City, he should at least reach the 9th level of the forging state. Why is there only 8 levels? It's not that they think the 8th grade is too bad, it's just that it doesn't deserve the title of first genius. The first person in each city of Kanglan Kingdom has always been the 9th level of the physical training realm, and even a talented and stunning person has set foot in the spiritual will realm. He was valued by the teachers of Yunzhang Academy and accepted as a disciple, directly entering the underworld for cultivation. Such a person can be called the darling of heaven, the true pride of heaven. In contrast, the forging environment is 8-fold, and the difference is quite significant. Is such a person really the first person in Qingzhou City? 8 divine rays, 8 levels of physical training. And the faces of Yunlin, Yunfei, and other members of the Yun family were filled with astonishment, causing a stir in their hearts. Isn't Xiao Muyang unable to cultivate? They are still stuck in the memory of Xiao Muyang being a useless person, little realizing that the current Xiao Muyang is not what it used to be. Only Gu Xing's expression was extremely calm, as if everything was taken for granted. Are you satisfied? Xiao Muyang looked at Yunlin and let out a faint voice. Yunlin's expression froze, but he still couldn't get out of shock. This is really unbelievable. The famous waster in Qingzhou City in the past, now in front of the stone tablet of Yunzhang Academy, sparks 8 rays of light. How dazzling. If it were anyone else, it would probably be difficult to accept it for a while, especially since Yunlin never paid attention to Xiao Muyang, and at this moment, he only felt a burning sensation on his face. You must have cheated. Yunlin shouted loudly. He didn't believe it. How could a useless person suddenly be able to cultivate, and his cultivation level was equivalent to his, so he must have used some shady means. Brother. Yunfei's pretty face turned red, as if feeling a bit embarrassed. Cheating. Xiao Muyang looked at Yunlin, as if he was looking at an idiot, and said indifferently, Are you saying that I cheated in front of the examiner at Yunzhang Academy? Of course. Yunlin replied without even thinking. If I cheat, there will naturally be examiners coming forward to punish me. When will it be your turn to point fingers here? Xiao Muyang said coldly. Upon hearing these words, Yunlin's expression froze and he was speechless for a moment. If he continues to believe that Xiao Muyang cheated, it is undoubtedly questioning the ability of the examiner at Yunzhang Academy. He cannot bear this charge. That's enough. A serious voice came and the young man spoke. He looked at Xiao Muyang and asked, What is your current state? Upon hearing this, Xiao Muyang's gaze fixed, knowing that the young man had noticed it. He honestly replied, The 6th level of the forged body realm is the soul fusion realm. Xiao Muyang's words made many people's faces change, and there was a faint gleam in their eyes. The 6th level of soul fusion triggered 8 rays of light, indicating that they had really cheated. I'm not wrong. How could a useless person have the same realm as me? Yunlin sneered, and then his gaze glared fiercely at Xiao Muyang. This is the end of the matter, what else can you say? Xiao Muyang glanced at him without any answer. Seeing that Xiao Muyang had ignored him, Yunlin's expression became even colder. He looked at the young man and clasped his fists, saying, This person is still shameless for cheating. I request the examiner to drive this person out of the school to avoid tarnishing its reputation. If you really cheat, you really don't have the right to stay here. In the distance, a student who was watching also agreed, What a sacred place is Yunzhang Academy. How can people who are fishing for fame and reputation be allowed to set foot in it? It's best to keep quiet about things that don't concern you. Gu Xing looked at the student with a cold expression, revealing an invisible aura in his eyes, which made the person's heart tremble and he really shut up. Gu Xing, this is not Qingzhou City. Yunlin looked at Gu Xing and spoke coldly. Gu Xing could run rampant in Qingzhou City, but Yunsan Academy was not his place of recklessness. Enough, the young man said impatiently, looking at Yunlin. He didn't cheat. No cheating. The people around trembled in their hearts, their expressions somewhat incredulous. If he was truly in the soul-melting realm, why could he inspire 8 rays of light? This is somewhat unreasonable. I saw Yunlin's face stiffen with a smile, staring blankly at the young man. Is this hitting his face in public? But Xiao Muyang has already admitted, is it difficult for the examiner to deliberately shield him? Although situations that do not match the true realm are rare, they are not non-existent. At this moment, a gentle and beautiful voice came from one direction. Upon hearing these words, everyone's eyes showed a hint of strangeness, and they all turned their gaze, thinking to themselves who had arrived. I saw a beautiful woman wearing a purple long dress walking towards us, with skin as smooth as cream, a tall figure, a head of jet black long hair tied behind her head, and a delicate and flawless face with a gentle smile, revealing a gentle and intellectual beauty. After she arrived here, the entire exam room quieted down, and her eyes were all cast towards this side. In an instant, it seems to have become the center of the entire audience, including those examiners. It can be seen how well known this woman is in Yunsan Academy. What a beautiful woman, is she also a student of Yunsan Academy? For many years, the surrounding people stared straight at the woman in the purple dress, their eyes never moving away from her figure. Xiao Muyang sensed the reactions of the surrounding crowd and thought to himself that such an outstanding woman should not be seen much in Yunsan Academy. Shui, senior sister. The young man bowed to the woman in the purple dress, his expression respectful, as if the woman in the purple dress had a high status in the Yunsan Academy. The woman in the purple dress nodded lightly, then her beautiful eyes swept over the students around her and explained with a smile, that stone tablet is a spirit testing tablet. By testing the strength of the warrior's spiritual power, one can determine the warrior's realm. Although his true realm is a fusion soul realm, the spiritual power inside his body has reached the level of leaving the body, so the spirit testing tablet will reveal 8 rays of light. I see. Many people's eyes showed a sudden realization, and their expressions towards Xiao Muyang became somewhat strange. Isn't this to say that his cultivation in the soul realm can be comparable to that in the awakening realm? They suddenly understood why Yunlin had previously called him the first person in Qingzhou City. If that's the case, we really deserve the title of first person. However, they didn't know that Yunlin was just saying that to humiliate Xiao Muyang, and they didn't expect to accidentally claim the title of Xiao Muyang's first person. Senior, is it possible that there is a problem with the spirit testing tablet? A different voice came out, and the person speaking was Yunlin. He still didn't believe that Xiao Muyang could practice. Xiao Muyang looked at Yunlin speechlessly. Did this guy just end up with him? It is indeed possible, but it is not very likely. The woman looked at Yunlin and said, why don't you go up and test it to see if the result is the same as your own level? Okay. Yunlin nodded and walked straight to the stone tablet. Xiao Muyang glanced at him and gave up his position. Just as Yunlin was about to place his hand on the stone tablet, Xiao Muyang suddenly said, wait a minute. What do you want to do? Yunlin looked at Xiao Muyang with an unhappy expression. If there is no problem with the stone tablet, then you are publicly slandering me. How should this matter be counted? Xiao Muyang spoke calmly. Yunlin's expression turned cold and he said, what do you want? In front of everyone, apologize to me. Xiao Muyang let out a voice with a calm expression. Since he dared to slander him, he naturally had to pay the corresponding price. You. Yunlin pointed at Xiao Muyang, intending to refuse the request, but now that the situation has escalated, he is already in a difficult situation and can only grit his head and say, okay, I promise you. After speaking, he pressed his palm against the stone tablet, and a spiritual force flowed from his body to the palm of his hand, finally pouring into the stone tablet. After a moment, 8 dazzling lights lit up on the stone tablet. Yunlin looked at the 8 beams of light on the stone tablet in front of him, and his expression suddenly became extremely embarrassed. Originally, this was something to be proud of, but at this moment, he couldn't be happy at all. The stone tablet accurately measured his realm, which means there is no problem with the stone tablet. So, Xiao Muyang's grades are also true. Apologize. A cold shout came out, but the person speaking was not Xiao Muyang, but Gu Xing, who had been enduring Yunlin for a long time. Xiao Muyang and the surrounding crowd's gaze also fell on Yunlin, waiting for him to fulfill his promise. At this moment, Yunlin became the center of the audience, attracting attention from all, but unfortunately he was not honorable. I slandered you, I apologize to you. Yunlin lowered his head and looked at Xiao Muyang, his face flushed as if he had been slapped. It's best not to have another one, otherwise I won't be soft-hearted, Xiao Muyang said calmly. Yunlin repeatedly deliberately targeted him, trying to make him lose face, but apologizing was already considered lenient. Upon hearing Xiao Muyang's words, Yunlin's expression was extremely ugly, but he felt embarrassed to say anything more and could only endure it. What's your name? The beautiful eyes of the woman in the purple dress suddenly looked at Xiao Muyang and asked curiously. Xiao Muyang replied. The woman nodded slightly and then smiled at Xiao Muyang. Keep going, Yinsang Academy is looking forward to your joining. Thank you, senior. Xiao Muyang also smiled, appearing very polite. This is your jade plaque. The young man handed a jade plaque to Xiao Muyang and said, come here in 5 days to participate in the second round of assessment. Okay. Xiao Muyang took the jade plaque and then glanced at Gu Xing. The two of them walked out of the crowd and left here. You keep busy, I'll leave first, the woman in the purple dress said to the young man and then walked away. Subsequently, the examination room returned to its previous state. For the vast majority of students, what happened just now was just an interlude, and the most important thing now is still to pass the assessment. The appearance of the woman in the purple dress just now further strengthened their determination to enter the Yinsang Academy.